Yeah, I'm benching 15-pound weighted blankets these days. Do you even lift, bro? Hey there, it's Amelia from Sleepopolis, back at it with another weighted blanket review. Have you been on the search for the perfect weighted blanket? Well, lucky for you, I'm a writer who reviews sleep products and I'm a certified sleep science coach, so I've done all the research and testing for you. So all you have to do is sit back and enjoy this review. Speaking of this review, it's all about the Casper weighted blanket. Casper is one of the most well-known mattress and bedding companies out there. If you listen to podcasts, I'm sure you've heard a commercial or two for Casper. In this review, I'll be going over the construction and feel of this weighted blanket, as well as give you guys some honest pros and cons about who I think should buy it based on my experience of testing it out. But first, before we get started, don't forget to visit sleepopolis.com, where you'll not only find my review of this blanket, but you can find lots more reviews on mattresses, bedding, and more. You can also find some exclusive coupons on there that will help you save a little bit of money. And we've got a little challenge to get this channel to 50,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so if you want to help us out with that, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. All right, so I want to kick things off by taking a look at the construction of this weighted blanket. Understanding what materials are used in this blanket will give us a better sense of how it's going to work. So let's start off with the outer shell. Now, the outer shell of this weighted blanket is made with 100% cotton with a twill weave, and that has a thread count of 205, which is a pretty mid-range thread count for a twill weave fabric. Now, the inner lining is made with 100% polyester, also with a twill weave, and that has a thread count of 140. Now, the inner lining of this blanket contains a batting fill, which is basically like fibers used as a layer of insulation, and it's really commonly used in quilt making. That batting fill is made of 100% polyester fiber, and it has a weight of about 90 grams per square meter. The inner lining also holds the glass microbeads that give the blanket its weight. Now, as you can see, this blanket has gridded stitching, which allows the microbeads to stay evenly distributed throughout the entire blanket. Each one of these rectangles contains some beads, so they can't all pull on one side of the blanket. Now, the Casper weighted blanket is available in 3 different weights, which are 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and 20 pounds. And all those blankets come in just one size, which is 50 inches by 70 inches. Now, when you're choosing a weighted blanket, you want to choose one that's close to 10% of your own body weight. So for example, if you weigh 100 pounds, the 10-pound blanket would be perfect for you. Now, if you're in between 2 different weights, you want to go with the higher one. The reason for this ratio is that that's what will allow you to experience deep pressure touch, which is basically the sensation that we get from hugging or cuddling that releases hormones in our body that help us to calm down. Now, I tested the 15-pound blanket for this review, and as you can see, I have it in the dusty rose color. I absolutely love pink, so I really like this color, but this blanket comes in some other great colors too, like gray, indigo, and fireside, which is kind of like a reddish brown. All right, it's time to talk about how the Casper weighted blanket feels. How do you feel, Casper weighted blanket? Just kidding, I know the blanket doesn't have feelings. Or does it? Anyway, I took this blanket home to test it out for a few nights to give you guys an idea about how it feels. The first thing I noticed about this blanket is definitely how smooth the outer shell feels. I honestly thought it was made of satin or something like that at first. And I also really like that this blanket is kind of thin. It's kind of unusual for a weighted blanket to feel so thin. And really, the micro beads are so small and so mixed in with the batting fill that it's kind of hard to tell that they're even there. It's kind of like a sneaky weighted blanket. You don't realize at first just by looking at it and even feeling it a little bit that it is a weighted blanket. But it definitely is a weighted blanket, as I felt a really nice amount of weighted and comforting pressure when I was lying under this blanket. The gridded stitching really helps to keep the beads distributed evenly throughout the whole blanket. Now, another thing I noticed is that this blanket does have a very slight cool to the touch feel on the outer shell. This outer shell is made with cotton, which is a great fabric for breathability. Now, I won't say this will be a superb cooling blanket, but I think between the fact that this is a slightly thinner weighted blanket and it uses a lot of cotton in the outer shell, it'll be pretty good at not overheating too much. All right, now that we've talked about the feel and construction of this blanket, it's time to give you guys my honest pros and cons. So let's go over what I liked and what I didn't like so much about the Casper weighted blanket. First up, the pros. So my biggest pro for this blanket is definitely the filling that's used to give the blanket its weight. The microbeads that are used in this fill are so small and fine that it's not even immediately obvious that there are beads in this blanket. You definitely won't hear any clinking or feel the beads rolling around, which I really liked. Second, I really like the feel of the outer shell of this blanket. I think it has a really nice smooth feel, and I think it's a really great option for people who run a little bit hot and want something that won't trap too much heat, as well as for people who prefer a smoother feel to their blanket as opposed to the more fuzzy, minky fabrics that are popular in other weighted blankets. Third and finally, I really like the color options that Casper has for this blanket. I think this dusty rose color is super pretty, and I really like the other color options too, so I think you'll definitely be able to find something that'll go with your bedding. Now let's talk about the cons. So I think my biggest con for this blanket is that it's spot clean only. You can't remove the outer shell from the inner lining that contains the fill to wash this blanket, so if you're on the messier side or if you have a kid or a pet that is prone to making a lot of messes, this probably isn't the best blanket option for you. Next, I would say this isn't a great option for heavier people who weigh 200 pounds or more. As I mentioned before, the heaviest option for this blanket is 20 pounds, so if you weigh a lot more than 200 pounds, you won't get the positive effects of deep pressure touch from that blanket. Third and finally, this blanket only comes in one size, which is best for a single person. So if you're looking for a weighted blanket to share with a partner, it's probably not the best option for you. Alrighty folks, that was a lot of information. So real quick before we wrap up this video, let's go over some of Casper's policies. So first, Casper offers free shipping within the contiguous United States and to most of Canada. Customers in Hawaii, Alaska, and Northern Canada will all have to pay an additional shipping fee. Next, Casper also offers a 30-night sleep trial with this blanket, and that means you can test the blanket out at home for 30 nights, and if you decide it's not right for you, you can return it for a full refund. Third, Casper also offers a 1-year limited warranty with this weighted blanket. Well guys, that's all I've got for you in this review today. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for lots more videos like this. And if you have any questions about the Casper weighted blanket, leave those in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.